Galaxy's most feared weapon, designed to break minds and bring entire civilizations to their knees, failed completely because it was tested on a human. One man. No armor, no training, just stubbornness, sarcasm, and a lifetime of surviving Earth's chaos. This isn't your usual hero's tale. It's the story of how humanity's mess became its greatest strength. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and show some love with a thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's dive into this wonderful, wild, and unexpectedly human story. Ronan Hallis didn't look like much. His jacket was torn at the elbow, his boots were scuffed, and his hair looked like it hadn't met a comb in days. But there he stood, arms crossed, leaning against the wall of an alien atmospheric chamber, like it was just another Tuesday at the local bus stop. He yawned, a real slow yawn, the kind you do when you're bored out of your mind waiting in line for coffee. Outside the thick glass walls, a group of confused aliens stared at him through monitors, shifting in nervous clusters, whispering in tones that humans would probably mistake for insect hisses. Commander Brinnock slammed a clawed fist down on the control panel. The chamber had been pumped full of their most potent fear gas, an agent so terrifying it had caused entire civilizations to surrender within minutes. It targeted the brain, specifically the parts responsible for fear and trauma, drawing out the deepest, darkest thoughts a creature had ever tried to suppress. Yet this human wasn't even sweating. He should be curled on the floor begging for mercy. Brinnock growled, eyes narrowed. He hummed something earlier, said a younger technician, her voice shaky. I think it was, I don't know, a human song about sunshine and biscuits? Biscuits, Brinnock echoed, horrified. Maybe breakfast, she added, or possibly heartbreak. Human lyrics are confusing. In the chamber, Ronan looked up at the camera, grinned, and gave a lazy thumbs up. Then he leaned down, untied one boot, and began shaking out a rock. Thanks for the hospitality, he muttered, more to himself than anyone listening. But your fancy smoke machine smells like my uncle's garage after a barbecue went wrong. Brinnock stared in disbelief. His species had used this exact gas to defeat the red-scaled Noriths during the Salt Nebula War. It had driven the hive behemoths of Ur-Tech to madness. The very idea that a soft-skinned creature from a backwater planet called Earth could just stand there making jokes was more unsettling than anything the chamber could produce. They had chosen the human randomly. Their scanners picked him up in a small Earth settlement, Newark, they believed it was called. The records showed nothing remarkable. No military training, no special biology, just an ordinary man with a bad credit score and a lot of takeout orders. But here he was, not only resisting the gas but acting like he was on a lunch break. Could he be immune? One of the data analysts asked, flicking their many eyes toward Brinnock. No, Brinnock snapped. That's not possible. We've tested this compound on over 300 species. It always works. In the chamber, Ronan picked up a strange metal object that had fallen from the ceiling. He turned it over in his hand, squinting. Fancy. Hope it's not a camera. I just cleaned my nose. Brinnock gestured sharply to the technician. Open audio. Let's talk to him. The technician nodded, tapped a series of glowing buttons, and the human's voice filled the command deck. Hey, Ronan said, cheerful. Is this thing on? I figured someone would show up by now. Kind of smells like burning tires and regret in here. Are you trying to scare me or just fumigating the place? The room fell silent. Not one of the gathered aliens responded. It wasn't just that he was unfazed, it was that he sounded annoyed, maybe even slightly amused. Brinnock stepped forward, voice amplified through the speakers. Human, you are inside a high-security containment chamber. The gas we deployed is meant to trigger primal terror. You should be incapacitated. Ronan shrugged. Yeah, well, I've lived through 3 rent increases, a roach infestation, and a 2-hour hold with tech support. You're going to have to try harder. A few of the younger aliens exchanged worried glances. Brinnock felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Doubt. He turned to Niravel, a junior technician who had been observing quietly. What do your scans show? Brinnock asked. She tapped her console, her thin fingers moving quickly. His biological systems are normal, no mutations. Heart rate is steady. Brain activity shows no spikes in fear or panic. It's all just very average. Impossible, Brinnock muttered. Commander, she continued, hesitating. It might not be that he's immune. It might be that Earth has already exposed him to worse. Brinnock blinked. Worse? Nira nodded. He's from a place where fear is common. Traffic accidents, smog, crime, constant stress. His world may have conditioned him to ignore signals our gas is designed to trigger. Brinnock turned to look at the screen again. Ronan had now sat down cross-legged in the chamber and was absent-mindedly tapping a rhythm on the wall. He looked entirely unbothered, like he was waiting for a bus that was running late. Brinnock exhaled slowly. We need to bring him in, question him directly. Should I prepare restraints? Asked the security officer. Brinnock hesitated, then shook his head. No, I don't think they'll help. As Ronan stretched his arms and muttered something about needing coffee, the alien team began to realize the terrible truth. Their most feared weapon had failed, and it had failed against someone who had once fallen asleep during a fire drill. Ronan Hallis didn't panic when the guards came for him. He just looked up from the strange, humming device he'd been poking at and gave a lazy wave. The two aliens who entered the atmospheric chamber were tall, thin, and looked like armored grasshoppers with glowing eyes. They didn't speak, just motioned for him to follow. Ronan stretched, cracked his back with a wince, and casually followed them through the sliding door. Well, at least this is more interesting than last Thursday, he muttered. That was laundry day. The hallway outside looked like something from a science fiction movie. Smooth metal walls, glowing lines along the floor, and a faint hum in the air. He didn't seem impressed. Instead, he kept glancing at the light panels. You guys really lean into the whole alien vibe, huh? Bet your electric bill is wild. Inside the observation room, Commander Brinnock and the rest of the alien officers were watching his every move. They didn't understand. This human, by every scientific measure, should be terrified. The fear gas was designed to target every known brain pattern associated with fear. But somehow Ronan Hallis walked like he was on a coffee run, not deep inside an alien spaceship. Even now, as the guards led him into the interrogation room, he looked more annoyed than afraid. Sit, one of the guards said, his voice flat and metallic. Ronan looked at the chair. It had sharp angles, glowing restraints, and what appeared to be tiny needles. Yeah, no thanks, got a bad back. Mind if I stand? The guards exchanged uncertain looks, then stepped aside. Ronan walked over to the wall and leaned against it casually. So who do I talk to about your weird fog machine? You guys selling those, or was that just for show? From a high window, Dravik, the ship's chief analyst, observed closely. He was a small creature, covered in shiny plates and equipped with 6 blinking eyes. He had spent his entire life studying behavior, fear responses, and neural patterns. Nothing in his years of experience explained what he was seeing now. He muttered to himself while scanning Ronan's brain activity. No fear, no stress, just mild irritation. How is this possible? Ronan looked up toward the window and waved. Hey, I know you're all watching. Any chance I could get a snack? I skipped breakfast, and hostile alien abductions really burn calories. One of the junior techs snorted in laughter, quickly pretending to cough when Brinnock shot him a look. The commander was no longer angry. He was curious. This human was clearly not a trained soldier. His records showed he used to be a firefighter, but now he worked as a mechanic in a small town on Earth. No special clearance, no history of mental conditioning. Just normal. And yet, he stood here, unafraid. Nira Vel, the young technician, who had first reported Ronan's strange resistance, brought her datapad to Dravik. Look, she said, pointing. These are neural comparisons, other species under the gas. Look at the fear centers lighting up. But here, Ronan's brain is barely reacting. It's treating the compounds like familiar smells. Dravik frowned. He recognizes it? Not the exact chemical, she explained, but something similar. His brain isn't seeing the gas as danger, it's seeing it as normal. In the interrogation room, Ronan crossed his arms and began to whistle a tune, something upbeat and strangely catchy. Brinnock entered slowly, folding his arms behind his back. "You're not scared," he said simply. "Nope," Ronan replied. "You should be," Brinnock added. "You were abducted, isolated, and exposed to a powerful neurological agent designed to break minds." "I've been through worse," Ronan said, shrugging. "Once, my apartment building caught fire during a heat wave. No power, no water, and I still had to go to work the next day. You think gas that smells like burnt socks is going to rattle me?" Brinnock paused. "We thought your kind were fragile." Ronan raised an eyebrow. "We are. We complain about everything. But we're also stubborn. We live in cities where the air tastes like rust, where rivers catch fire, and where people still show up for work in snowstorms just because their boss might get mad. You throw something scary at us, we just get used to it." Brinnock turned toward the observation window, thinking, "This isn't what we expected." Dravik sent a message through the speaker. "We believe the human's world has exposed him to environmental stressors equal to or greater than our fear gas." Brinnock nodded slowly. "So he is not immune. He is adapted." "That's one way to put it," Ronan said, rubbing his jaw. "You guys ever try breathing New York City air in August? Now that's a horror movie." A moment passed before Brinnock spoke again. "Tell me, Ronan Hallis, are all humans like you?" Ronan laughed, a rough, genuine sound. "No. Some are stronger, some aren't. But one thing's for sure, we don't give up easy." Outside the room, the command crew was silent. For the first time, they weren't thinking about how to defeat a species. They were wondering what it meant to meet one that had already survived its own nightmares, and still found time to joke about it. The data center aboard the alien vessel buzzed with quiet panic. Rows of blinking consoles displayed lines of code, scans, and projections, all telling the same impossible story. The human, Ronan Hallis, was still walking around like he was on a casual tour of a space museum, not a prisoner inside one of the most feared ships in the galaxy. His presence was no longer just confusing. It was beginning to feel like a threat to everything the Galactic Council believed. High Strategist Ulan stood at the center of the room, his tall frame rigid and his scaled skin rippling with unease. Unlike Commander Brinnock, who had started to see Ronan as a curiosity, Ulan saw him as a problem, a dangerous one. "We built our dominance on fear," Ulan said sharply. "If fear fails, our influence cracks. He must be a genetic anomaly." Dravik, the lead analyst, shook his head while tapping away at his console. "We've rechecked the scans 3 times. He's normal by human standards. No mutations, no advanced implants. His biology is unremarkable." "What's remarkable is his tolerance." Ulan's eyes narrowed. "Tolerance?" Dravik turned his monitor to face the room. On it, they could see various maps and environmental readings of Earth, pollution levels, radiation pockets, toxin concentrations. Their planet is filled with hazards: noise, poison, emotional stress, unstable weather, and high social pressure. They've built entire cities in flood zones and earthquake-prone regions. They survive in environments that would leave most species broken. Ronan isn't special. He's a product of his world. Across the room, Niravel watched silently. She'd spent more time observing Ronan than anyone else. She'd seen the way he joked to hide discomfort, the way he didn't flinch when things got tense, and the way he casually touched the walls and spoke to the guards like they were neighbors rather than captors. She wasn't afraid of him. In fact, she was starting to think the galaxy might need more people like him. "He's adapted," Nira said, stepping forward. "Earth is a tough place. Their people adapt through humor, sarcasm, and stubbornness. They learn to live with discomfort instead of running from it." Ulan scoffed. "Then they are reckless." "No," she replied. "They're resilient." The Gao room grew quiet. The words sat in the air, heavier than anyone expected. Meanwhile, Ronan was in a small observation chamber with a guard who looked more like a walking sea urchin than anything with a face. The guard stood still, clearly uncomfortable, while Ronan leaned on a ledge, staring out the window at stars he'd never imagined seeing in person. "So," Ronan said, breaking the silence, "what do you guys do for fun around here? Play glowing space chess? Laser tag with real lasers?" The guard said nothing. "Not much for conversation, huh?" Ronan continued. "My ex was like that. Silent treatment was her favorite hobby." He wasn't scared. He was bored. Back in the data center, things were escalating. Olin slammed his hand down on the console. "This human is a threat to our structure. If one man can resist our fear tech, others might too. And if the rest of his species learns this..." "They already know," Nira interrupted. The room turned toward her. "They live with fear every day. Not from gas or monsters, but from each other, from their jobs, from their systems. And still they keep going. They've built lives on shaky ground and learned how to laugh anyway." Olin's face darkened. "So you believe we should leave them alone?" "I believe we should stop underestimating them," she said. "We tried to break him. It didn't work. Maybe we should try talking." Just then a sharp alarm pierced the room. Dravik's console lit up with flashing red symbols. He muttered a curse in his native tongue, tapping quickly. "What is it?" Brynok asked, entering the room with long strides. Dravik looked up, his face pale. "The data core. Someone's accessing restricted files." "Who?" Brynok demanded. Dravik didn't answer right away. He turned the monitor. A camera feed showed Ronan in a hallway near the data wing, chatting with one of the guards. The guard had apparently decided to let him stretch his legs. A terrible decision, it now seemed. "I don't think he's hacking anything," Nira said, stepping forward. "He doesn't even know how to use our tech." But just as she spoke, another alert popped up. Somehow Ronan had activated a hologram display that filled the hallway with rotating images of Earth's environment. Pollution maps, extinction, data, climate disasters. Ronan stared at it, jaw tight. "I didn't know it was this bad," he whispered. The camera had picked up his voice. In the data center, everyone listened. "You guys scanned all of this," he continued, "so you knew. You saw what we're doing to our own planet." Nira watched the screen, her heart sinking. Ronan didn't look defiant anymore. He looked sad. In the room, Ulan crossed his arms. "You see? Their species is unstable." "No," Brynok said quietly. "They're surviving despite that." Ronan turned from the hologram and spoke directly into the air, knowing full well he was being watched. "If you wanted to scare us into submission, you chose the wrong method. We're not scared of monsters. We live with worse every day. But if you wanted help, maybe you should have just asked." The screen went silent. No one said anything for a long moment. Then Nira turned to Brynok. "He's right." Brynok didn't respond, but deep inside, for the first time, he agreed. Fear hadn't worked, but maybe, just maybe, hope would. 3. Days after Ronan Hallis walked through a cloud of fear gas without so much as sneezing, he found himself sitting at a very shiny table surrounded by creatures from 17 different star systems. The room was shaped like a dome, its walls alive with soft lights and shifting colors that seemed to reflect the mood of the council. Right now, those lights flickered between cautious yellow and uncertain blue. It was the Galactic Assembly Chamber, a place meant for serious decisions. Ronan still had trouble taking it seriously, mostly because one of the chairs looked like a beanbag made of jelly, and another resembled an upside-down spider. He hadn't dressed for the occasion. His boots were still dusty, and his jacket had a small rip under the left arm. But no one commented. He was the only human here, and at this point, the aliens had learned that humans came with rough edges. That was kind of the point. At the head of the table floated Elder Siri, a quiet being who looked like smoke trapped in glass. When she spoke, her voice didn't echo. It settled gently into the air, like it belonged there. "We have debated for many hours," she said, "and we have reviewed all data. The human species is unexpected." A murmur passed through the room. That was one way to put it. No other species in the galaxy had resisted fear gas. No other species had responded to alien abduction with bad jokes and boredom. Ronan cleared his throat. Look, I didn't mean to cause all this. Honestly, I was just trying to enjoy a bad cup of coffee on my balcony. Then your tractor beam showed up, and here we are. He paused. But if you're asking whether humans are always like this, well, yeah, more or less. We complain a lot, we mess things up, and somehow we keep going. Across the table, Niravel smiled. She'd been watching Ronan from the beginning, and now she was the one who had made the final recommendation to the council. She had called him more than immune. She had called him useful. Elder Sari continued. Our galaxy holds many planets that are too toxic, too unstable, or too hostile for most of our member species to colonize. Some are rich with resources, yet untouched for generations due to their dangers. But your kind, we breathe smog like it's air, Ronan said with a shrug. And some of us even pay extra to live in cities full of it. A few council members blinked, literally and figuratively. Sari nodded. You are uniquely adapted. What breaks others you turn into background noise. That makes your people valuable. So, what are you saying? Ronan asked slowly. Commander Brinnock stepped forward now, no longer stiff with pride but measured, respectful. We want to propose a partnership, not conquest, not control, an alliance. You and your kind would help us manage and explore hazardous worlds. In return, humanity gains access to our technology, knowledge, and the chance to take your place in the stars. Ronan leaned back. Let me get this straight. You're offering humans jobs as your galaxy's cleanup crew? Put simply, yes, Brinnock said. But with status. You would be pioneers, not janitors. Ronan looked around the room. For once, no one seemed to be judging him. He was no hero, no trained ambassador. Just a guy who used to fix cars and sleep through fire alarms, and somehow that made him exactly what the galaxy needed. What if we say no? He asked. Then we wait. Sari replied calmly. But we hope you don't. He thought about Earth. Crowded cities, polluted rivers, constant chaos. But also families holding on to each other through it all. People laughing in hard times. Strangers, helping each other in storms. It wasn't a perfect world, but it had heart. Maybe that was what made humans different. They didn't survive in spite of the mess. They survived through it. All right, Ronan said finally. But I'm not doing this alone. You won't be, Nira said. We've already selected a joint crew, mixed teams, humans and aliens, each chosen for resilience, adaptability, and cooperation. And so it began. 2 weeks later, Ronan stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Grit Voyager. Its hull was reinforced for planetary storms. Its filters were designed to handle corrosive atmospheres. Its crew came from 12 species, including 5 Earth-born humans who still weren't sure if this was a dream or the weirdest new job ever. Ronan had been named mission leader, mostly because no one else wanted to argue with the guy who'd made fear gas look like air freshener. Their first mission was a planet called Xeron 4, long avoided due to its acidic clouds and constant electrical storms. As the Grit Voyager prepared for descent, Ronan turned to his team and grinned. Remember, he said, if it smells like Jersey in July, we're probably fine. The others laughed, even the ones who didn't fully get the joke. Back in the observation station, Elder Sari watched the ship disappear into the stormy planet below. Beside her, Commander Brinnock folded his arms and spoke softly. Do you really think they're ready? Sari's voice remained calm. They were born ready. They just didn't know it yet. And deep in the galaxy, far from home, a mechanic from Earth led the toughest crew the stars had ever seen.